Left of the box. There has been growing encampments on universities here in Canada, across the country, for pro-Palestinians, protests wanting their universities to divest from funding Israel and weapons being used and all that sort of stuff. Like all the protests that you're seeing down in the States, they're happening here, just on a much smaller scale, and so far a lot less violent, as in, from everything I've seen, there's been no violence, which is good. And ideally, I want to keep it there. So I have a few clips on that, a few news stories. Let's get to it.
We're ready to stand our ground and fight for what we believe is right.
This is a scene at Montreal's McGill University. Dozens of tents have been erected on the school's property, with protesters camping out and calling on post-secondary institutions to cut ties with Israeli companies that they say are contributing to war in the Middle East.
Students have the right to protest, and this is very peaceful. There have been no instances of violence.
A demand that's also being made by student activists in the United States.
We are here to stay. We will not give up. We won't rest till you divest.
Across the border, hundreds have so far been arrested for occupying campus property. And as the movement escalates, Ontario universities are bracing for similar demonstrations. U of T has fenced off the front lawn around King's College Circle with signs that read, "These grounds are temporarily closed due to concerns of unauthorized activity." The university acknowledges that peaceful protests are central to campus and democratic life, but says there are limits. A letter went out to students on Friday stating U of T's lands and buildings are private property and that unauthorized activities such as encampments or the occupation of university buildings are considered trespassing. The University of Ottawa is taking a similar stance, and the Prime Minister is also weighing in.
Universities are places of learning. They're places for freedom of expression, freedom of thought, freedom of ideas, but that only works if people feel safe on campus. Right now, right across the country, Jewish students do not feel safe.
Fuck off, Justin. Come on. Oh my God, he makes me so mad. A lot of these protests are led by Jewish students and faculty. Okay, if Jewish people are not feeling safe on campus, that is their own baggage coming into it. They just feel uncomfortable. They are safe. But here's Justin Trudeau saying, oh, well, these protests, there has to be limits because it's making Jewish people feel unsafe. No, it's fucking not. Get your head out of your ass, Justin. I get so mad at this. It's like, oh, well, we respect people's freedom to, freedom of speech and to express themselves and to protest and blah, blah, blah. Only if you do it our way. Oh my God, he makes me so mad that he would do that. There have been no threats against Jewish people on these encampments. And they're not the ones that are in danger. They're not the ones being threatened. It's always the pro-Palestinian people under attack. And those pro-Palestinian people are quite often Jewish too. They're the ones under attack. We have students here that are standing up against genocide. But he doesn't actually address that. He doesn't actually, say what these students are protesting or acknowledge it in any way. Oh no, it's just making them feel unsafe on campus. Fuck off, Justin. Like, my God, that smug ass grin of his just drives me absolutely crazy. It's not done. These protesters are not hampering student activity on campuses. They're not. Students are still free to go to class. They're not being harassed. They're just there to make a statement. And to have the Prime Minister come out and tell the people of Canada that these protests are threatening Jewish individuals is so gross. just so unbelievably gross.
That's not right.
McGill University has now asked for police assistance to help dismantle the days-long occupation. At this point, it does not appear any protests are planned at U of T. Shauna Hunt, City News.
Meanwhile, when it comes to who the real threats are, so this was recorded at a barely veiled verbal threat of violence against groups of people at the Toronto Police Service Board. Yes, this happened at a meeting in Toronto, at a police board meeting. We'll watch it. We'll watch it.
For you guys, and being undermined publicly is really gross. As a citizen born and raised in this city, it appears to me that this city is in a little bit of decline because you guys are being hamstrung at every turn. And I want to just give a little bit of a tidbit.
Mr.
I'm sure I'm going to get cut off of this. Everyone I know in my community is getting armed, which should scare everybody here. Everybody in my community, I'm in social networks with hundreds of people, are getting armed. They're all getting their firearms license because they see these pro-terror protests.
I'm going to ask you to.
So in case you haven't been able to make this out so far, this guy here is saying that he knows so many people that are getting their firearms license and that sort of thing because they're getting ready to do what the cops aren't doing and fight back against these pro-terrorist protesters. He said this openly at the Toronto Police Board meeting. And the woman you can hear cutting in is just saying, "Can you please stay on topic?" But the people in tents on campuses, they're the threats? They're the terrorists? I don't think so. All of the violence we have seen so far have been towards the protesters. From Zionists, from the police, from pro-Israeli settler colonial people. Like, that is where all the violence has been directed so far. And again, Justin comes out and says, well, Jewish students might not feel safe on campus. Yeah, if they're part of these protests, they probably don't feel safe. Because of guys like this guy. Because of the police and how brutal the police can be when they decide to dismantle things. So far, there's no threats of them doing that. There's a few more videos to get into about this, but absolutely disgusting that it's always Justin saying that the pro-Palestinians are the threat. When there's guys like this openly speaking at a Toronto Police Board meeting.
Stop
unabated
on other topics.
Anyway,
I am interested
you guys
in
were
what you
saying.
have to say, but not at this point in time. And I think
so. This video here was saying that this was happening at McGill, which is in Montreal, that nothing has happened in Toronto yet. There were signs and fences put up. Well, about that.
Well, this major field at U of T was blocked off to students starting over the weekend. The administration had put up some fencing. Well, students had stormed down that fencing early this morning at about 4 a.m. Take a look at it now. A bunch of encampments, dozens of tents set up. Students now occupying this portion of U of T campus. This is called King's College Circle. I'm told at about 4 a.m. students stormed down the fencing and put up tents for a peaceful demonstration. About 150 students and faculty here and more coming as the day goes on. Now, there's students monitoring the entrance of the encampment, only letting U of T students and faculty onto the grounds, making sure everyone's values are aligned, trying to avoid any strangers from coming in and avoiding any escalation during this process. Now, we also hear that faculty is here supporting students. Here's more.
There's a lot of faculty here. We wanted to make sure our students were safe, our students were heard, and just be presence and witness for the students in this action. But of course, we also support our students and their demands. And
I like these professors. These professors rock. Good on them.
As a Jewish faculty member, I felt it was really important to be here. I'm here with a lot of other Jewish faculty and a lot of Jewish students. We're here because we support.
So this Jewish faculty member and the other Jewish faculty members and the other Jewish students there that are part of these protests, they're making Zionists feel uncomfortable, Justin? Is that what your worry is? You're not worried about how uncomfortable they feel having to do this protest to try to stop a genocide? Is that it, Justin? You're not worried about how they feel. You're just worried about how the Zionists feel. Is that it? Just smug-ass politician he is. Arrgh.
Support absolutely the demands of the occupation, and we support Palestinian liberation and freedom.
We're still waiting for UFT to get back to us with a comment, but lots of security is around just making sure this protest, this demonstration is remaining peaceful. Students say that they plan on being here for as long as it takes. They want their voices heard. They want the university to divest and cut ties with certain Israeli companies. And of course, they say they want Palestine to be free. Meantime, MPP Sarah Jama, who's been very active in
Sarah Jama's amazing. We're going to get to some of her stuff.
Pro-Palestinian relations. She says that she's in support of all these demonstrations that are popping up across Canada. She says she'll be at McGill University today, followed by the University of Ottawa, and then later on this week, she's hoping to visit these students here on UFT campus. Jaden Lee Lincoln, Global News.
So University of Toronto not clearing pro-Palestinian encampment for now. And this was just 2 days ago. So the University of Toronto says it will be letting an encampment set up early Thursday morning by pro-Palestinian protesters to stay for now as long as activities remain peaceful. And as you might be able to start to gather with all of this, that's what they're trying to do. You know, these protests are very organized. They have people who are kind of in charge, people to go speak to, spokespeople. They have certain etiquettes and protocols that they're following because, you know, they don't want incidences like what's happening in the States to happen here. And so as long as they stay peaceful, then Justin should also keep his mouth shut. Because a peaceful protest on a campus shouldn't be threatening to anyone unless, you know, they're internalizing it somehow and it's making them feel guilty that, you know, there's a country that is like bombing to death a population of people. Like, you know, it would be uncomfortable if you supported that genocidal regime. Huh, Justin? Oh, Ray, your daddy was still prime minister here when we had residential schools. Wonder why you're so willing to look the other way when another country commits genocide. The university has erected fencing to prevent an encampment there, but protesters got around it. Several police and vehicles quickly arrived on scene, but no clashes were reported throughout the day, despite some counter-protesters showing up. The protesters are calling for the university to divest from companies with military ties to Israel and cut ties with some Israeli universities. Yep, the number of protesters, and this is from Adrian, the number of protesters has grown considerably larger outside the pro-Palestinian encampment at UT. The university has told protesters they have until tonight to pack up and leave. Those I've spoken with say they're not leaving, and from what I gather, they have not yet. I think one university has, or is that just the one in the States that I'm thinking of, where they actually got some concessions? But let's hear from the people who are running it.
A student at the U of T. She's the official spokesman for the encampment on campus. Hey, Sarah, thanks for taking some time. I know it's busy, but it's good to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, the message you guys are trying to send here.
Yeah, I'd love to tell you about it. We have come together to demand that our institution align its investment practices and academic.
Also, just a note, Canadian media, better than American media, because I don't think on too much American media you would get a spokesperson for the encampments to be able to go on one of the national news networks and be able to speak in a non-combative environment, to just be able to answer questions and say their piece. Just saying, I don't see that in American news too much. And I have my criticisms about Canadian media, but much like our healthcare, it's still far superior to American systems.
partnerships with international law and human rights values. This is, of course, concerning the ongoing genocide in Palestine. Our ultimate goal is to urge UFT to be a leader in divesting from the oppression of Palestinians. We want our institution to listen to us, to acknowledge the gravity of the situation, and then, of course, to take meaningful steps towards justice. Divestment is not only achievable, but necessary. It has been done before for South African apartheid. It must happen again. We will not leave, like you mentioned, until our demands are met.
All right. The university's saying, you know, that's fine, but this is actually trespassing because it's private property. It's not a public park. How do you respond to that?
I say that while green spaces and campus lawns are touted as public spaces of recreation and community on orientation day and graduation day, they become privatized, militarized zones once university admin deem them so. The university admin is threatened by the student body applying pressure and mobilizing, by the student body coming together and vocalizing what they all agree on collectively. But we do believe that the university still has the room to do the right thing. Like I mentioned, they can still be leaders in divesting from Israeli apartheid. They can still do that. But at the end of the day, this is our campus, and we will take up space if they ignore our calls, which they have been doing for 6+ months now.
What happens if the police are called in to enforce the law?
We will not be leaving. Again, this is not just starting now. For the past 6 months, we have used all of the channels available to us to push for divestment, all of the soft approaches. The university has completely ignored our point of view. This encampment is not meant to make anybody feel unsafe. It is University of Toronto students who are permanently demonstrating to get the university to consider our view seriously. What we are talking about is the impact of genocide, the worst case of famine the world has seen in recent times. Still, the University of Toronto continues to invest in the state of Israel. The fact that innocent children are being killed and we are protesting should not make anybody feel unsafe, not Muslim students, not Jewish students, not Hindu students, not Christian students. From a principled perspective, all students should come and join us and stand together in solidarity with the Palestinians who are suffering on ground, and institutional complicity is necessary in this entire system. Without
Like, all of this is so great. And how often do you see this on American news? To be able to say all of this without being interrupted, without being saying, but Hamas. We need more of this still. This is great. Like, yes, all that she's saying, yes.
Institutional complicity, what is going on in specifically the genocide, would not be possible. We must come together and protest it in numbers.
U of T might say, Sarah, look, we're not going to decide university policy based on a group of student activists. It doesn't work that way.
Well, to that, we say that they should be principled in precedent. In the past, they have divested from things like I mentioned, South African apartheid. So why not apply that same principle to Palestinians? It makes no sense. They should be, following their own precedent, their own divestment principles that they have carried in the past.
You talked about nobody should feel threatened on campus, but we do know some students have said they do feel threatened and they feel uncomfortable. They're worried about their public safety. They just want to go to class. They want to get their grades. They want to graduate. They don't want to get involved in this, and they don't.
Okay, you guys saw the video footages of the encampments that you saw there. It's not exactly in people's face. It's easy to walk around them. They're not blocking off anything. So how does having some tents in the middle of a field make you feel uncomfortable? It's probably the messaging behind it that's making you feel uncomfortable. If it's, again, if you're a Zionist or pro-genocide, yeah, it would make you uncomfortable, but we saw it's not impeding anyone's access to the universities. There's plenty of room to walk around them. Like, why would anybody be feeling uncomfortable around that? You don't want to participate? Don't participate. Just go to class.
Don't often feel welcome or comfortable. How would you characterize that? Because you said that everybody's welcome.
Yeah, 100%. So we're not obstructing any pathways for folks to go to class. We're in the middle of King's College Circle, now the People's Circle for Palestine, without diminishing the experience of other students. The public outcry of not feeling safe, we do hold, is an attempt to push the university and law enforcement to limit and silence the student body. We have published a code of conduct which prohibits any harassment of anybody, no matter who they are, what their identity is. There is no physical risk to safety. If folks do feel unsafe, it is because they hold, like you mentioned, a different point of view. Every university campus have different points of views. Our encampment does not in any way say that others cannot do their own protests. Universities are spaces for all kinds of views, but if students do still feel unsafe because they hold other views, we urge them to go and seek help, mental health resources, the Health and Wellness Center at the U of T St. George campus.
I kind of love this. It's like, well, if Zionists are upset by seeing us, they should go get help. They should go get their mental health checked. I kind of love that.
Campus, nobody should feel unsafe. We're not obstructing any pathways to classrooms. But at the end of the day, we do believe that the public outcry of feeling unsafe is just an excuse to take away from this very legitimate movement and protest that is taking place on campus after 6 months of unresponsiveness from this institution.
Sarah Rasick joining us. Hey, Sarah, thanks for taking time today to join us. Give us your take on what's going on here on CTV News.
Aaron McKee, one of the protest organizers at UT, say demonstrators are looking for long-term commitments from the university to divest from Israel. If they want this encampment cleared, they could make a commitment to divest.
We're interested is a commitment from the University of Toronto to divest from Israeli apartheid. So the University of Toronto has divested before. They divested from South African apartheid in 1988. They divested from fossil fuels in 2021. They have an ethical investments policy. So really all we're asking is for them to adhere to that policy, which is a pretty easy ask, honestly. And if they want this encampment cleared, that's what they could do. They could make a commitment to divest.
Nice, clear, simple. It's like, if you want this protest to end, this is how you do it. Like, what they're asking for is not unreasonable. They're just asking to divest and follow similar steps that they've done in the past with other, like with South Africa. That's all they're asking. They're not asking, for the university to make a statement condemning genocide. They just want the university, the money that they're paying to the university, to not go towards the Israeli cause of genocide and weapons and Israeli institutions and all that sort of stuff. Well, we heard that one statement from the Prime Minister already. This was said a little bit later on at a press conference. He was asked about it. Well, yeah. Well, listen.
Is joined by Deputy PM Chrystia Freeland. They're taking some questions from reporters right now. Let's listen.
Go on out after university or college and lead the world are a core part of what campuses are all about. At the same time, we need to make sure that as part of that, everyone can feel safe on campus. Whether you're a Jew,
They do.
Jewish student, whether you're Palestinian, whether you have strong feelings on one side or the other.
I'm pretty sure a lot of the Palestinians don't feel safe when their academic career may be on the line because they speak out against what Israel is doing. Or students that get harassed by teachers and media and get, singled out by Zionists and attacked for being pro-Palestinian. I'm pretty sure they have reason to be afraid, because these are actual things that have happened recently.
And on that, we have to trust both universities to manage their campuses right and local police of jurisdiction to do their work to make sure that everyone is safe.
Follow up.
So I take it, do you just think the police should decide whether they should be removed or not? Are you concerned about violence, as we've seen in the United States, a conflict between different sides? It sounds like you don't really want to weigh in one way or another about whether they should stay.
Well, I have been weighing in on this issue of the angst, the anguish, the anger, the fear that Canadians have been feeling for months and months and months. Since the October 7th attacks that have led to feelings of deep uncertainty in the Jewish community around the rise of anti-Semitism, but also deep, deep concerns amongst the Muslim communities around the humanitarian catastrophe that's going on in Gaza right now, and the rise in Islamophobia. These are things that are...
Who, Justin? Who is causing that humanitarian crisis? Huh? You mentioned October 7th, and you mentioned how, that made Jewish people feel unsafe. But what has happened since? What is causing that humanitarian crisis? Has he ever even said it? That Israel has killed, 40,000 innocent people? Has he once condemned that and outright said it? Has he said anything about the millions of people being starved and dislocated? What the fuck, Justin? Why can't you say it? God damn it, he makes me so mad. That he focuses in on, October 7th made, Jewish people feel unsafe and stuff, and then there's this other humanitarian thing going on in Gaza that we should be worried about. What's causing it? Say it, Justin. Say the Israeli government is bombing the hell out of Gaza and slaughtering innocent people. You can say it, Fuck off, Justin. He makes me so fucking mad.
Challenging for a diverse and pluralistic society like Canada to deal with, but we must, and we do that through conversations, we do that through
conversations, but don't protest the way that we don't want you to.
Making sure that everyone is protected, that laws are enforced, that people take on their responsibilities to create spaces for conversation in which everyone can feel safe. And nowhere is that more important, that everyone can feel safe having a full range of conversations and debate and dialogue and challenges than on university and college campuses.
Next question.
What a smug, arrogant prick. Is it any wonder why people really dislike him, regardless if you're on the far left or the far right? My God. To sit there with that pretentious attitude of we're in the right, we're holier than thou, while talking about the humanitarian crisis. But the rise in anti-Semitism because of October 7th. We got to focus on that. We got to give that much more weight and coverage than we do talk about the humanitarian crisis, without even mentioning what's causing the crisis. What's causing it, Justin? Huh? What's causing it? You can say it with your outside voice. It makes me so mad. So mad.